the business meeting of the Lewis County Commissioners for Monday, July 6, 2015. There's 3 commissioners present, so we have a quorum. Flag salute. Commissioner Schulte, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the June 29, 2015 BOCC minutes.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the June 29, 2015 minutes of the Lewis County Commissioners. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Public comment. We have one comment. Ron Averill, representing Farm Bureau.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'm Ron Averill, Centralia, and representing Farm Bureau. The legislature, in its operating budget, has passed the funding for the voluntary stewardship program, which I would remind those of you who may not be familiar with this program. Every county is required to plan critical areas ordinances, and it always has been a problem in those critical area ordinances of how do you deal with farmers, because many times those critical area ordinances will impact their ability to farm their land. And so the legislature, several years ago, actually about 7 or 8 years now, passed the voluntary stewardship program, which allowed for farmers to plan in their farm plans how they would deal with critical area ordinances in conjunction with the Indian tribes, ecologists, the state, and the county government. That plan was set aside that would not be implemented until such time as it was funded, and that it had not been funded until last year when a pilot program was put out for both Thurston County and Clallam County
Chelan, I think.
Chelan County to plan or to start a pilot program on how they would do this, and they've finished their first year. The legislature has funded this, about $7.6 million, and it will be divvied out to the state agencies and to the counties, the 26 counties that have said that they will plan under VSP. There is some guidance that the Farm Bureau, the State Farm Bureau, passed down to each of the county farm bureaus. We, of course, in Lewis County, were one of the first counties to opt into VSP, and we're very interested in the Farm Bureau on how that plan will be implemented. I'll pass some guidance to each of you that was sent down by the State Farm Bureau on some of the key issues that we believe are necessary to make sure that we plan properly. So that'll be coming out to you later this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any further public comment?
No more.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the notice agenda, one item, resolution number 15-200.
I second.
Good morning, Commissioners. Steve Walton, Budget Administrator, speaking to item number 1 on the notice agenda, resolution number 15-200. Notice of hearing regarding a budget amendment for 2015, amending Fund 160, the Criminal Drug Investigation Fund. The Budget Department was made aware of this issue late last week, so it did not make the most recent budget amendment that was held June 29th. Sufficient fund balance exists in Fund 160, but it's necessary to amend the budget to ensure adequate funds are appropriated to cover recent expenditures. Notice of the public hearing will be published in the East County Journal on July the 8th and the 15th, and the hearing will be held on the 20th in this room. The amendment will reflect a revenue increase of $12,000 stemming from confiscation and forfeitures from the Sheriff's Office. Help me out, Dusty. Where'd they come from? I just did a forgetful here. Revenue $12,000 from Bell Williams area over in the
Evidence.
Evidence. Thank you. Boy, I just could not get that word out today to save my life. That'll teach him to show up, huh? Put him on the spot. Expenditures increased in the amount of $52,000 for equipment, purchase of tasers, and the result is a use of fund balance from Fund 160 in the amount of $40,000. Any changes that will occur between now and the hearing that change the notice will be covered on the day of the hearing on July the 20th at 10 a.m. And the fund balance currently in Fund 160 is $267,000, so there's ample funds available.
Okay.
Any questions?
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Walton. It's been moved and seconded to approve the notice of hearing resolution number 15-200. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda, 3 items, resolution number 15-201 through 15-203.
I second.
All right. Grace.
Good morning. Gracie Menace from the Auditor's Office, speaking on item number 2, Resolution 15-201. This is the approval of warrants for payment and payroll for the week of June 29th through July 3rd. We had 256 regular warrants, warrants numbers 726-296 through 726-408, and 726-701 through 726-843, for a total of $1,311,067.20. And we also had payroll that week. There was 192 payroll warrants, 473 automatic deposits, for a total of $3,327,500.56.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you, Grace.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Elsey speaking to item number 3 on your consent agenda. This is resolution number 15-202, authorizing a contract with the Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Council of Governments for cost of transportation planning work performed. This would authorize the chair of the Board of County Commissioners to sign and execute a contract between the COG and Lewis County for cost of transportation planning work performed. This is a contract for $25,000, which we enter into with the COG every year, and it goes to offset the cost of a transportation planner in the Public Works Department.
That person is?
Mike
Kroll. Okay. Questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Danette York, Director of Public Health and Social Services. I'm speaking to item number 4, resolution number 15-203. This is to approve a community development block grant contract with the Washington State Department of Commerce. So this is our 2015 to 2016 CDBG Public Services grant. We will receive $100,874, of which $3,500 will be maintained by our Department for Administrative Services for the grant, and then the rest, which is $97,374, will be subcontracted out to the Community Action Council of Thurston, Mason, and Lewis County. So this is, again, the contract from the state to Lewis County, and then you will receive another one here shortly going from the county to CAC.
Okay.
Questions?
Others? Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, items 2 through 4, resolution number 15-201 through 2003. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now I'd like to call to order a hearing on traffic ordinance number 217, lowering the speed limit on a portion of Airport Road. We will first have a staff report, followed by a question and answer period. We will then close the question and answer period and open the hearing for formal testimony. And each person who will be speaking, citizen, will be having 3 minutes, and our clerk of the board will be timing you. If you would like to testify, please sign in on the sign-in sheet. And now we'd like to go for the staff report.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Elsey and Eric Martin to speak to this ordinance. And just to start, there are packets up on the next to the podium if anyone would like further information. As you're aware, Airport Road has recently been renovated and reconstructed. WashDOT did the work, but with design provided by Lewis County. During the design of the road, a decision was made not to replace the structure. It's a bridge at milepost 1.42, which did not meet the minimum Washington State Department of Transportation width requirements for a joint project between the state and the county. This reduced width requirement for a joint project saved about $750,000 on the cost. In order to get this approved, we did apply for a deviation request from Washington State Department of Transportation. That is in the packet as well. And that deviation request noted several different things, one being the width of the bridge, but also the taper from the new roadway section to the bridge would be 150 feet long, that there would be guardrail on the taper, that the posted speed limit would be lowered from 50 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour, appropriate road and arrow signage would be placed, and street lights would be provided on each end of the existing bridge. And Carrie, can we pull up the existing conditions map?
Which map?
I'm sorry?
Which map do you want?
The existing conditions. So currently, and we'll show it in the map, currently the speed limit is 50 miles per hour from the new overpass to the city limits, and there is an advanced warning sign slowing traffic or notifying the traffic of the lower speed limit at the city limits of 30 miles per hour. This ordinance would lower the speed limits. Now, if we could see the proposed...
Can we go a little bit lower on the map?
There we go.
That's good.
If we could see the proposed now. So this new ordinance would lower the speed limit for approximately 0.3 of a mile from the bridge that was not replaced as part of that project to the city limits. And part of the reason for that is that the design radius at the bridge is 500 feet. The AASHTO design standards, and I'll show this real quick. See, this curve radius right here is 500 feet.
Do you want me to go down?
Yes, go down.
Okay.
So we're looking at just lowering the speed limit for that 0.3 of a mile. The AASHTO design manual recommends a speed of 35 miles per hour for low-speed urban streets with a curvature of 454 feet, a radius of curvature of 454 feet, and 40 miles per hour for a radius of 667 feet. Therefore, with the radius being 500 feet, that is 35 miles per hour is the appropriate speed limit for that curve. Eric Martin, our traffic engineer, did a traffic analysis on this, and he will speak to that now.
Yeah, as Tim mentioned, the analysis was basically just a review of the AASHTO Green Book, Table 3-13B, and as Tim mentioned, looking at the radius in the design plans from the project, which are included in the packet, just the one sheet there, which is sheet LC10, and if you look at note 26, it shows that the radius, actually it's note 46, it shows that the radius there is 500 feet, if you look at the curve data, which corresponds with a 35 mile an hour speed limit. So that was the investigation that was done to support the deviation request for 35 mile an hour speed on that road.
You mentioned AASHTO.
Yes.
What does that stand for?
It's the
American Association of State Highway Transportation
Thank you.
Officials.
Okay.
It happened to Steve Walton. It can happen to you.
Any other comments? Questions?
So, in conclusion, 35 miles per hour for this 0.3 of a mile is the proper speed for this road. It supports a deviation that was approved by WashDOT and the AASHTO design guidelines.
How many changes in speed limit do you put on a short stretch of road if conditions vary. I mean, in 0.3 of a mile, there are 3 different speed limits, 4 different speed limits, 5 different speed limits. How far can you subdivide this down? And why don't you just go from 50 to 30? Why do you have 3 different speeds in 0.3 of a mile?
Well, and this is not an unusual situation. As a matter of fact, we're doing basically the same thing on Highway 603 right outside of Winlock, where it was designed for a 50-mile-per-hour roadway. We've got a 3R project that was designed for a 50-mile-per-hour roadway until it went into the city limits, and the city limit speed limit there is 25 miles per hour. Rather than do that, we did a transition speed limit from 50 to 35 to 25 miles per hour. It is not unusual to do that. And do you want to speak to the transition?
Yeah, so the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices also recommends that you don't transition speeds on local roads and rural roads by more than 15 miles per hour in a chunk. And so the distance between those signs is going to vary depending on the speed limit itself and the speed of the traffic, but they do recommend, lowering it in increments of not more than 15 miles per hour.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I will open the question and answer period for the public. Yes.
Madam Chair, Ron Averill, Centralia area. I drive that road quite often because it's the best way for me to get from my home into the town center. There's a speed limit sign at the Mellon Street Bridge, which is what, Eric?
Originally, WashDOT had posted that at 45 miles per hour.
What is the sign speed?
Pardon me?
What is the speed on that sign?
The speed on the sign now is 50 miles per hour.
The sign is 45. I just drove it yesterday.
I just drove it yesterday, and they had 50 miles an hour on it. It looked like they just changed
They
it.
just changed it?
And that's due to WashDOT inadvertently mismarked the speed limit on that roadway when they did the improvements there at the interchange. We did contact them to see if there was anything in their design that required a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit for a short section, and there was nothing there. So the speed limit was posted correctly last week.
Okay. The second one is, Eric, what is the distance from the turn at the bridge, the curve at the bridge, to the point where the city of Centralia puts a warning of a 30-mile speed limit?
The distance from the bridge to the city limits is 0.3 of a mile.
I know, and the warning sign?
You said Centralia, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, to Centralia?
No, Chehalis.
Chehalis,
said
yes.
Centralia.
From the
Okay.
bridge to the Chehalis.
0.3 of a mile.
Yeah, and where is the warning sign? On the reduced speed limit?
I don't know the exact mile
Yeah,
post.
it's about halfway.
Okay.
So you're talking, about 100 yards or so.
Okay. All right. We'd like to close the question and answer period. Staff, would you like your comments to be incorporated into the hearing?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Right. Now we'd like to open the hearing for public testimony, and we will see. Once again, 3 minutes. And we have one. Ron Averill.
Yes. I might be a little bit anal on this thing, maybe partly because I was raised in California and I drive differently than a lot of people do down this.
Drive differently down there?
Get on our freeway, I'll teach you about prevailing speeds. When we designed the whole system from Harrison on through to the airport, we put in some CD lanes, collector distributor lanes, and those lanes are currently at 45 miles an hour, which if you drive that, it makes a lot of sense because that's very narrow lanes there, particularly on the side where they're doing the bridge. It'll be a little bit better when they open it up. And that was probably why they originally put the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, because it was a follow-through of that collection of lanes going on to the town center. When I first heard this, the concentration was on the issue of the narrowness of the bridge, and actually that's not the concern. In my estimation, the bridge is wide enough for traffic to go through, but there is a pretty sharp turn right at that point. And while my Mercedes can handle that pretty easily, I know a lot of other cars cannot. So I certainly support the reduction of the speed limit. I just argue that it doesn't make much sense to go from 50 to 35, and then in 150 feet, you're going down to 30. And I would recommend that you go to 30 immediately and transition them over. I understand that there are some standards out there and things of this nature, but when you put those lines up to find the speed limit, the traffic was told us 45 miles an hour, and they were going way all over the speed limit, which means that in the future, when we see little rubber things across the road, if we just raise our speed, we can get our speed limit a lot quicker, whether it's safe or not. I just think we need to use some sense and recommend that this be 30 immediately. Thank you.
Are there anyone else out there who did not sign up who would like to testify? All right.
I have a comment.
I will close the hearing for public testimony, and then I'll give it. Okay. I'll close the hearing for public testimony. All right.
The question that Colonel Averill asked was one I was asking myself, which was why not just have one speed limit change? But you mentioned something about there's a requirement that says you can only bring it down 15 miles an hour at a time. So the statement I have, or the question I have is, if we have a county road where the speed limit's 50, and the city, as it runs into the city, their speed limit is 30 or 25, do we have to go back and do transitions on other roads that slow or change it more than 15 miles an hour?
Well, and the requirement is that you would have an advance warning sign noticing the change in that speed limit if it's greater than 15 miles per hour. So no, we don't need to go back and change it. But this would do away with the requirement to have an advance warning sign.
Tim, could you repeat that? I didn't quite hear. We had a little digging going on here.
I'm sorry?
I didn't quite hear what you said. We had a little dinging going on around here. So,
if you transition from a speed limit that's greater than 15 miles per hour difference, the requirement is that you have an advance warning sign stating that you're lowering the speed limit. If you do it 15 miles per hour or less, you take away the requirement for the advance warning sign. So what that means is that there's no requirement for us to go back in and change any speed limits that don't fit within that requirement as long as we have advance warning signs.
So, Tim, so you do have to have the advanced warning sign then, because I'm thinking of some roads that I travel, and one in particular coming from the state park up in Mossy Rock, and it goes from 50, and then you see a sign that says, you get into town, it goes to 25. Mm-hmm. And there is an advanced sign that says reduce speed or whatever it is. So anyway, and there's whatever it is, a quarter of a mile or whatever the distance is. So would this eliminate that? Would you still?
That is in accordance with the requirements or recommendations of the MUTCD. Okay. And so that you would notice the advance warning that you're going to lower the speed limit greater than 15 miles per hour.
Because unlike you, I know that used to be a very, very good speed trap. So I'm thinking if you eliminated that, mm-hmm. and I know how that works. So anyway, yeah, that's what I was just wondering about that. So I'll note that. I don't drive that fast anymore unlike Commissioner Schultz.
I don't think any of us are driving that fast right now.
Well, we got one here that's a little bit guilty of that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Call for the
Madam
question.
Chair, I move to approve traffic ordinance number 217, lowering the speed limit on a portion of Airport Road.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve traffic ordinance number 217, lowering the speed limit on a portion of Airport Road. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for coming.